Not even I wanted it to be great. I wanted it to be a movie that I was okay leaving on, like my classic, like okay leaving on Netflix when I'm playing a video game.
Yeah.
You already talked about American Vandal, right?
Yes.
Finished it. It was good.
Yeah, it was good, right? Well, somebody can take an easy one if they want with Stranger Things coming out in like 4 days.
That Thursday night?
I think so.
Thursday night at midnight?
Is it?
I think so.
Next Thursday or this?
This Thursday.
I thought it came out like on Halloween.
No, it's Friday.
Oh, is it?
Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friday at
So I will not be doing
12
any kind of watch party. Tootsies? Not on my luggage.
Welcome to Three Wise Radio, the podcast where we talk about movies, TV, video games, comic books, the internet, and pretty much everything else media related.
But not today.
But not today. I'm Garrett Welker. Join me, as usual, is Sam Pixley.
Hi, Garrett.
And we're not going to talk about any of that media shit today. We're here specifically to talk about Geostorm.
Geostorm. The long-awaited, actually really long-awaited as I've done more research about the movie. But we wanted to bring on a special guest for Geostorm, former roommate Steve Clemens. Steve, how you doing?
Good, guys. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you doing better than you were 3 hours ago?
No, I'm not.
You're doing, would you say, significantly worse?
Yeah, I feel sick.
Oh, is that from the movie or from just life?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, that's kind of what we were hoping to get out of it. As we know, we are back on the movie train. Mm-hmm. Last movie that we saw for the movie train was
American Assassin.
American Assassin, which was I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we decided after 11 trailers that we got to see to move on to Geostorm. Well, I say we decided.
I mean, you made that decision, yeah.
Yeah, I made an executive decision, and I stand by it. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a few people for the betterment of mankind.
I don't think that applies to this
I think
situation.
it does. It affects us directly so that we can tell people whether they should or shouldn't
See this movie?
see this movie.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
So, in many ways, I would consider myself a hero. And I know Steve agrees with me. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Say yes, I do into the mic, Steve, so we can all hear you.
Yes, I do.
There we go. Perfect. Let's just get into it. A couple things just to start the hype train from doing a little bit of research to Geostorm. Just to give you an idea, paint a picture for you as to where this movie's at right now and pre-production, how we got here. Just to give you guys a little taste of how this movie got going.
All right.
Let me know if this directly, in your minds, reflects the final product of what we saw.
Okay.
Geostorm started production and ended production in the year 2014. Was originally slated to be released in March of 2016. However, there was conflicting arguments, but it is apparently, after frequent test screenings, it was deemed unwatchable. So they sinked $15 million additional dollars into the movie, putting its entire production budget up to $120 million.
Wow.
Which is quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
However, unfortunately, due to the reshoots, the original director, whose last name is Devlin, was busy. So they just had to hire a different guy to come in and direct with $15 million to fix the piece, where they reportedly added several additional cast members to slightly modify the story. So we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
Then we move on to opening weekend. Sorry, actually, let's backtrack. They did have a little bit of controversy, unfortunately, where they did have to send out a massive request to all movie theaters asking them to remove the poster. The movie poster, this was around September, because all the movie posters were of a hurricane attacking a shoreline,
bad timing.
And Brave the Storm was the tagline. So it's not the best situationally around those times, specifically in American, well, I guess all over the entire world at that point. So, had an opening weekend, $13.3 million. I would like $13.3 million, but after having spent $120, not so great. Looks like internationally it's going to hit about $50 million. But in the
Total or just from international?
That is total.
Ooh.
That is total. The number one question our frequently asked question about Geostorm on IMDb was, do the creators know that the word Geostorm is actually a 1993 car subcompact by Isuzu? Is that how you pronounce that?
Sure.
That's the only frequently asked question regarding Geostorm on the little-known website IMDb. And I did find one review that I thoroughly enjoyed, and then we'll wrap it up with this. This is from a Mark Kermode. Just took a couple snippets of it. The movie takes stupid to a whole new level. Honestly, and I say this, I think it's the stupidest film I've ever seen. It is more stupid than Angels and Demons.
That was a pretty stupid movie.
So what do we think, guys? Does this match up with what we saw?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes sense.
Fair enough.
This movie was a hot mess. It was not good.
It was like a hodgepodge. I think I wrote this movie the first semester I took a film class. Just in terms of story, character development, one-liners, and then the feel of like we need every scene to end on like a good one-liner.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you can do a transition. And overall, just performance. I mean, on every level, this movie did not do well at any point whatsoever. Let's take a look at characters, I suppose. Does anybody remember a single character's name besides the
Jake.
Jake
Who's
and Max.
Who was Jake?
Jake
Jake
was
is the main.
Jake is Gerard Butler?
Yeah.
Okay, what do we think
his
about
brother
his
is Max.
performance?
He doesn't look so good.
In terms of overall health?
Yes. I'm concerned what this movie did to his life expectancy.
We talked about Gerard Butler before in the past, but is it rude to say that I think he probably drinks a lot? Is that wrong to say? But he kind of just has that vibe about him.
Yeah.
It's like you just look like
Sallow.
you look
It's-
worse than you should.
Yeah.
It's a little unfair to him because when you think of him, you think of what he looked like in 300.
You can't hold on to that for
I know,
like 20
But he
years.
definitely looks much worse than I expected him to.
And he plays Jake. What's the last name? Anybody know?
Turner?
Let's start with a T.
I think it was Turner.
Fair enough. But he is the scientist that put everything together. And we do have that classic line of, I'm an hour late to a congressional meeting, which is just, again, the most stereotypical congressional meeting you've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you're out of order. No, the system's out of order. What did you say to me? They brought in that one guy who always plays like some kind of senator guy or is on the West Wing or some kind of politician that doesn't really understand what's going on, but he's got a loud voice. And I think that really set the tone for what all of this was. I think like Gerard Butler, like, was he bad? I didn't
Like,
think
was his performance bad? or-
Yeah.
It's Jake Lawson.
Jake Lawson. Perfect.
I don't think he himself was bad. I just don't think there was anything to go with.
I think the writing was the
The true culprit, the true Geostorm.
Especially with the when they tried to have like intimate scenes between two characters, whether it was Gerard Butler and his daughter.
No, that was probably the worst.
Or his brother, and they're just trying or the his brother and his Secret Service girlfriend. None of those.
Or hell,
connected.
even the brother and the general, like their first interaction, where it's like, it was just like every single cliche about that scenario crammed into their dialogue.
Yeah. It's almost tough to break it down because there's so many holes that it's tough to actually like. It's like when there's too many targets and you get overwhelmed, so you just miss all of them.
Did the music in those one-on-one scenes bother you as much as it bothered me?
I honestly did not
A lot,
even notice because I was.
They were trying to make it feel very dramatic and like
So like a
heartfelt.
lone cello was starting to play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a third of the movie was those scenes. I feel like, and the music was brutal.
So essentially, we have the scene where everybody's out of order, but of course Gerard Butler is right, but no one's willing to accept it. And his younger brother. So we have Jim Sturgis, I believe his name is, who from whatchamacallit, that Beatles movie, Across the Universe. So we have a Brit with a shaky accent, American accent, Gerard Butler with
with
a Scottish accent are both these two American brothers. That's just wildly unbelievable. But the younger brother, they're meeting. The timeline doesn't even make sense because they're meeting to talk about the result, like what's going to happen to Geostorm. And he's like, if you don't get yourself in order, we're going to kick you off the team. And then the meeting is adjourned. And then Jim Sturgis shows up and was like, we had a meeting last week. You've been off the team for a week. And no one addresses the fact that the timeline is a complete wash.
I think it was kind of like a, hey, we already had this meeting like unofficially, and like if you weren't behaved for this meeting, like then you're done.
Right, but then what was the point of that?
I don't know.
It was Butler's chance to be submissive to
It was
Congress, like say, okay, fine, and he wasn't, so they're like, fine, you're gone.
But I guess so, but I guess for me that just wasn't properly portrayed as if he said, like, I guess he did say, like, I told you to behave. Like, why didn't you then just tell him if you don't behave, they're going to take you off of the mission? Yeah. So I was like, yo, dude, be nice this time. And by told you to behave, I sent you, like, quiet emojis. Yeah, stop sign emojis in a congressional meeting. It's like, settle down, stop.
I'm in the middle of a meeting right now. I'm not going to look at my phone.
Everybody's looking at their phones in meetings. So he's off the mission 3 years later, which is a pretty big time jump. So far, Geostorm's still working, still going strong.
Dutch boy.
Sorry, Dutch boy. Geostorm is actually, as we found out, Geostorm's the bad guy. I was thinking that Geostorm was like a cool name for the satellite, but it's a name Dutch boy after the boy that put his finger in the hole.
In the dam.
That's probably a better description.
Phrase.
Yes, inappropriate phrasing. So we change it up to we have the United Nations military vehicles are in the desert, whichever desert, who cares? I guess it's Afghanistan or something. And they find that a little village surrounded by desert has just been completely iced over.
Just this small little village, nowhere else around it.
Yeah, just a teeny tiny little pocket. And so they just say, oh, there's got to be a malfunction. And then there's a problem in Japan. Say, okay, well, this is 2 malfunctions. It's a little sketchy. So they decide, let's send 1 man up there. And it just this is the part where the writing just there's not the worst dialogue in the world, but it's the bad scene writing of you. So you've got all these people in a room, and one guy's like, "This is the right thing to do." Then other guys like, "No, it's an election year." And everything's so stereotypically done that it's just so bland and boring to even bother. And like, we've got to get one guy to do this job. So find me that one guy. And it's like, it's obviously Gerard Butler. Like, you're trying to tease something out. Like, oh man, who are we going to get to do this? When there's no question in your mind. Like,
clearly
the president even who gives the order should be like, you should call your brother because he built the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And then you get a moment with Ed Harris later where he's like, the man for the job. Like, yeah, we all do. So there's no point. There's so many scenes where there's no point to it because everything's already been established. There's no need for it.
Yeah.
And the 2 brothers hate each other.
For some reason.
Well, because they're older, or the older brother hates the younger brother for being a younger brother because they get bossy or something.
I don't know.
Something along those lines, but he also fired him from the job. So he sends him back up, to which we get what I think is the worst scene in the movie. The conversation between his daughter. The entire scene with his daughter in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was bad.
Anybody want to take a stab at this one?
Were they trying to do the Interstellar McConaughey and
like a ghetto Interstellar? Yeah.
They tried to have that kind of vibe, and it just did not.
Well,
First of all, they drive up, and this little girl is just the smart
working on
the
solar
smart
panels.
girl
You're
is
goddamn right
changing
she
the
is.
power converter.
Yep.
But she's really just having. Oh my god.
She's using a
she
torque
had
wrench.
a ratchet on the mount for it. Like, oh, of course I built all of these things because I'm 13.
But it's even more so with that. I'm gonna let you keep going, but it was Jim Sturgis also not being a dummy. He's like, oh, you're working with a solar panel, eh? And she's like, no, it fixes in on the location of the sun. Cool.
Yeah.
Continue with the scene. You're painting a beautiful imagery.
It hurts.
So then, one of the worst delivered lines, she embraces Jim. Like, she's very abrasive with her uncle, but then also runs up and hugs him. And then we also get the acknowledgement that, the parents are separated. And the daughter is using, like, language that, like, a 9-year-old shouldn't use.
She was 13.
Or I guess she's 13, but still a 13-year-old shouldn't use. Talking about how her mom is like, mom's upset, justifiably so. Like, a 13-year-old daughter is not, like, doing that. So then Gerard Butler, dad, comes out and utters the great line of, walks out. What's his daughter's name?
No idea.
Becky something?
Hannah.
Hannah. Good one. Nice. But utters the line, what are you doing here? Pause. Hannah, I told you not to talk to strangers. And then he just chews up the scenery like a goddamn hero. And then daughter goes into, and of course he lives in a fucking like modern sci-fi trailer.
Streamline.
Yeah, it was like a streamline that's covered in solar power. So it's like, I'm just glad we never went inside of it, because I really did not need to analyze any more about this character.
That's because he's an inventor.
Right.
Like,
yeah, he
Mark
is,
Wahlberg would
he
get
is a
along
fancy
really well.
Cade Yeager. But then he's mad at his brother, so then he walks over and immediately offers him a beer. And I just don't understand that. He's like, duh, you said hi to my daughter and you don't want a beer, so get out of here. I was like, what is the scene setting up here? And then eventually there's just the dialogue. We didn't even need to try to convince anybody. There was no like back and forth of, why should you do this? Why shouldn't you do this? He just said, there's a problem with Dutch Boy. And then we get the immediately classic stop, head
Dutch Boy?
turn. No. And then he's immediately on board.
Yeah.
Just absolutely immediately invested. There's no back and forth of why you should or shouldn't do it. It's like, that's not my problem. Yeah, it is. Damn. Trumped. Like,
You built it. Yeah.
and so that's kind of the setup for where we're at. And then a heartfelt scene where the daughter doesn't want him to die, a la Interstellar, to which he promises, and she...
And then she's like, you're not reliable. You never keep your promises. And he's like,
That's what I was also wondering. So is every scientist in movies just a shit dad?
yeah,
Like, is that just kind of... Like, there were no signs beforehand that he was a bad dad.
I know. That was
just
something
like
that confused
Too
me.
attached to his work.
Yeah, that's what it always seems to be. But this was just like, you're not much of a parent. And like, you promise... I know what promises are worth. Like, he's not... Dude, what has he done? I guess he had a rough 3 years where he drank a lot.
Where he was always gone on the space station.
I guess he was all...
around.
Yeah. Just seems a little bit...
But there was no build-up for
I don't know
that.
if he
It
ever
was just-
lied about going. He's like, I'm not going on the space station. All right, see ya. 3 weeks later, I'm back. I don't know. It just seemed a little rough to me.
Yeah. So they send him up to space. They waste all this fuel to send one man up to space.
Oh my god.
Right.
That bugged me.
Not on a cargo, just him sitting by himself in the bay.
What bugged me the most is NASA has retired, if I'm not mistaken, has retired the space shuttle. It's not.
Well, this is a new
It's
one.
a new one with the
This is altered timeline.
With the wingtips.
Well,
that are
wingtips
flared
are up
That's
to
the
show
only
that it's the
difference.
future. That's
the paint
the-
job.
yeah, that
I'm pretty
shows
sure the
that it's the
wingtips are up
future.
already.
All flared out on the end of the wings.
Yeah, the more recent models have been.
Well, they are almost facing forward.
Anyway, if they want to do it right, they should have just had SpaceX be sending everyone up, because that's what's going to happen anyway.
They did have a brief image of that, didn't they? In like the intro.
One of the rockets they were showing in like a montage was a Falcon rocket.
We didn't even talk about the intro. God damn it.
Well, we're talking about the daughter.
Just more generic shit of just, it's a global disaster movie. Let's see. Let's look at this from the eye of a child. And so we just intro with like a little girl and like, they thought it was just not global warming, but it was. They called it, what did they call it?
Extreme weather.
Yes, not global warming, extreme weather. And then it closes on her being like, and one man saved us all. That man was my dad. And then it just says, Geostorm. To which, again, as I said in the car, for some reason, I was under the impression that his name was Geostorm. Just because the timing and editing is way off on this thing.
Yeah.
So going back. So he arrives in space. Garrett, keep us going.
So once he arrives in space, he meets up with a German scientist and it's like, okay, well, I'm here to like fix things. I'm here to like check things out, and starts like pointing out like this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and then she's like, okay, like we just had somebody die, like we should be worrying about that instead of worrying about all these little minute problems. And he's like, I want to talk to who's in charge. And it's like, you're looking at her. He's like,
You know what?
Oh.
Didn't see that coming from a mile away. The lady that greets you and is like, welcome aboard, I'm this person. Who'd have seen it coming?
right? So she introduces him to his team that he's going to be working with. You get smart-ass Brit, who's like, oh yeah, I knew you. Like, apparently Gerard Butler's and Jim Sturgis's character were born in Britain and then moved to the UK. Moved to the United States,
The issue with that scene, which is what I thought with her, because when he walked on the plane with her, or the space station, she was like, oh, yeah, we were on the shuttle together, or we were on the station together for a little while. And then she's like, let's introduce you to the crew. I was like, is this going to be like, this dude's been on this station since it began, and 3 years later, we're going to get a brand new crew. Like, they didn't know any of them. More importantly, this is the guy that built this thing.
They made a point to be like, I know all 600 people on that station. Like,
yeah. The thing that got me is no one knew who he was, as if he's been out of the game for 30 years and the internet doesn't exist.
yeah.
And he's like, whoa, you're that guy?
So
Yeah.
they said his name. He's got his name tag on.
Name tag. Like, oh, an American. They
You're
sent
that
some
guy.
bureaucrat. It's like, no. Also, you should have been. Everyone in this room should have been briefed.
Yeah.
I've never had a brief, but that's what they're for. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So he meets his team. Then we have that incident. There's an incident in Hong Kong that happens. And let's see. This movie was just like very...
All
Over the place.
Yeah. They find out that...
Completely stalled out on what actually happens.
No, they find out that there was a piece of... That's what it was. They try and get the satellite that just went bad in Hong Kong and bring it back in. And all of a sudden, like... The arm that's supposed to grab the satellite just like goes crazy,
Thrashing.
There's like a
everywhere.
mechanical bull.
Yeah, yep, essentially.
That
Which is weird, because that arm, in the history of cinema, always goes real slow and delicate.
yeah.
Until it's just kind of rock and roll. I don't know the level of like robotics that those things operate on, but I don't think they're designed with that capacity to just like, oh, in case we just need to chuck something out of this space station real quick, let's let it have that amount of torque.
I mean, if you were like first designing one, maybe, because you're still trying to like fix out like how delicate it needs to be, but like not that far in the process.
Yes, but I think you'd also go on the safe side.
Yeah. So that destroys the satellite. So
Sure.
they can't get their the logs to figure out what happened, who broke into it, whatever.
Another damn accident.
Turns out there was like in the midst of all of that craziness with the robot arm, there was a little electrical storm that just fried the circuit. So even if you could salvage the pieces, doesn't matter. There's no information on there.
That is kind of a shitty element to movies that where they get to that where they utilize that in tech, where if something crashes, they can just say like, oh, the crash fried the circuitry, it's unrecoverable. Like, I could chuck my laptop off of a roof and go to Geek Squad and they could pull something out of it.
Oh yeah, they could.
And these are like top level scientists. They're just like, it's completely fried. There's nothing.
Yep.
So what do we do?
There's a backup mainframe somewhere.
Turns out they can try and figure out who was hacking into stuff on the satellites by finding out who hacked into the door and killed the guy in the beginning of the movie.
Right.
The door that happens to just coincidentally still be stuck in the
Yep, just
arms
wedged
of the,
in there. No one's gotten it
No
yet.
one's even noticed it.
No one's gotten that yet. No one's decided to check the tapes on the explosion yet. I mean, I get that these people are not detectives, but
They're
seems seems like they just were like chilling for a couple days until that accident happened, and we're just like, we'll get to it.
It feels like there was more than one director on this film.
Perchance. Perchance.
Oh man.
So somebody somebody hijacks his spacesuit while he's out in space.
Right, which you can do.
Yeah.
And just made one thruster go. At which point we get kind of an interesting space pinball situation going on, where I did not know this, but the International Space Station is constructed just very delicate pieces of equipment because he runs into everything and he survives everything. Like the amount of stuff that was just shattering.
Yeah.
And like just
It
exploding.
would have torn his suit at the minimum.
Probably. I was just expecting him to like run into something and stop it, but he ran into everything and it just exploded. Are solar panels really delicate?
Yes.
Are they? I don't know.
They can be. I'm sure the ones up there are very light. I mean, it costs a lot of money to get things up there. I'm sure they're lightweight, but
I'm not a 13-year-old girl with
I know you can
background
make
in science.
You can make a roof like Tesla's making a very durable solar roof, but I don't know what they're using up there.
Yeah, I get like the spectacle of things exploding, but that was just like
Ridiculous.
way too long and just overdone and bizarre.
In the process of all this pinball action, he somehow manages to get the hard drive out of the door and sneak it into his glove.
Yeah,
Because spacesuits just have secret glove compartments.
well, it's for extra. It's just in case.
Lots of pockets. Oh my god.
I understand that this is like a couple years in the future, but still.
You're saying that pocket technology and necessity has evolved in 3 years?
I'm
4
not
years?
saying that. I'm saying I don't think it's feasible because to keep the compression of the suit.
Well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't speak to that.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, one of the good scientists who figured out that this was all a big setup by somebody gets killed.
Chang Long?
Chang Long.
He does. After repeatedly having the interaction of like, I gotta meet you. It was like again, another stereotype. Anytime somebody gets on the phone and says we have to meet to a main character, they are dead.
Trouble.
Yep.
So what is the point?
Yep.
But I guess we gotta do it. I mean, one or two like tropes isn't bad, but I guess when you do like this movie and load them all up into one, it bottoms out. Keep in mind, there's also a lovely romance going on between Jim Sturgis' younger brother and his live-in girlfriend, who is a Secret Service agent, because they have, a romance going on where they can't be together, but yet they're still really not low-key about it at all.
No.
There's also on Earth, there's also a cool techie millennial that is apparently the best at her job, even though there's way more superiors above her.
And she's still like in basically the equivalent of the IT department.
Yes. What a cast of characters. I bet she was thrown in.
Probably.
But she does, man, what a mess. What a mess. So
let's see where are we at by that point?
So there's a line in the beginning of the movie, in the great scene with him and his daughter, where he's like, Jim Sturgis is telling Gerard Butler, like, hey, we used to have a brother code. And he's like, no, we didn't. He's like, yeah, we did. And he's like, shut up, this won't be relevant later.
It.
And then, of course, he's going to use that code later to inform Jim Sturgis. God, I need to know their real names. I forgot what their character
Jake
names.
and Max.
Sure. Like, oh, there's corruption at the highest level, with probably the worst coded message you've ever heard.
Were you guys trying to crack it as you said it?
I wasn't trying to crack it.
I was thinking, like, what's the first letter of each one? This is probably going to be very simple. It was more complicated than that.
I was just like, it wasn't a good code because you could have deciphered it just by listening, because like every couple of words you'd be like, you know what? And I took that reel and we really tried to sabotage it. Like, every word that he put emphasis on is like, okay, so there's a trigger, there's a code word, there's a code word, there's a code word.
And then how she figured out? she just pulls up the video, and it's like, oh yeah, I've already got that algorithm like keyed in. So it's like,
Wasn't even the algorithm wasn't keyed in.
Put in her phone number.
It was, she put in her phone number.
His phone number.
The clip, the audio, the video file was already broken up by each of his words. Like, that's not how Adobe works, or any kind of like editing platform. It's just like, so like,
Yeah.
so it's like, all right, we gotta cut this scene by like 2 minutes. All right, well, let's just have the video preloaded.
so they crack that real quick. figured out that somebody in the highest level of government
El
is-
Presidente, potentially.
Gerard Butler thinks it's the president.
Well, he's not saying it is. He's saying what if.
You're right.
That's exactly what he said.
This is the exact phrase. It's like, oh, great. Cool. So now we get into a big mission. Stuff starts happening. You know, the event appears, at which point, God, how satisfying was it the first time you heard it could usher in a geostorm? A what?
Oh my
God. Geostorm. And of course, a geostorm, as we heard multiple times, is like nothing we've ever seen.
It was terrifying when you saw Geostorm in an hour 30.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
No, it was time to Geostorm.
My first thought was, there's no way this can be another hour and 30 minutes long. I was really worried.
You think they were about to start 24ing it? Like,
Yeah.
timeline?
I was like, oh, I really hope they skip ahead because I can't be here for another hour and a half. That was my first thought.
That would have been awful.
Oh, yeah. That was like 2/3 of the way into the movie.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
no way.
I'm sorry you got a fright like that. That's rough.
Yes.
That's rough. So now we're at the point where, and of course there's a tracking simulator in the computer for when a geostorm's going to happen, because why not? So now we're geostorming in the space station, which has also been set to self-destruct. Mm-hmm. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. And then back on Earth, we learn that the only way to get the codes is from the president's bioretinal scan.
Yep.
So now we've got explosions going on in space, the Earth being destroyed by potential geostorm, and Jim Sturgis and his Secret Service GF trying to get to the president.
Andy Garcia.
Yep.
Who just always... He's a better villain than anything else, but as we find out, shockingly, not the villain. Because who's the first person that Jim Sturgis decides to break the rules and go to? Ed Harris, who, as we have known since the beginning of the film, is without a doubt the villain.
Yep.
That was which is nice because it sets things into motion, which gets us closer to, the end of this movie.
Yeah. There's a big chase scene out of the city through this giant lightning storm that's just like...
And apparently lightning just sets things...
This is the most capable lightning storm I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It doesn't just electrocute things, it
Ignites.
brings fireballs from the sky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Including a whole stadium.
An entire stadium just explodes.
Yeah.
If 10 lightning bolts hit a stadium at the same time,
It explodes.
colossal failure, it explodes. Yes.
Oh, God. So there's stuff going on. This is the geostorm starting to trigger. You're getting Brazil's freezing over. You're getting giant thunderstorms in Orlando. You're getting floods in Dubai that are like
tidal waves.
tidal
coming in.
waves
Yeah.
everywhere.
The one part about this movie that I like, and it's just like kind of a random, but I appreciated it because it was one of the few scenes that seemed like it made sense and was accurate. When Jim Sturgis and girlfriend talk, and he's like, it was the president. Like, it wasn't the president. Ed Harris just tried to kill me. It's him, the Secretary of State. We got to do this. And she finally gets on board 100% and is like, all right, I'll get, great line. You get me a car. I'll get us a president. Cool. So then she walks out and makes the best decision and the most logical decision I've seen. She's immediately like,
Gunman
this
sighted.
is code blue, gunman, or code whatever, code geostorm, gunman sighted, third floor mezzanine, and then just pulls her sidearm out and just blasts 3 rounds into the air. To which point I was like, good for you. Smart decision, makes sense, well executed. To me, that was my favorite part because it was the one that I was like surprisingly pleased with. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that'll do it. And then she knows how to take charge of her room.
Yeah.
In a car.
And she drives a car like a champ. The other thing that I was impressed, I didn't know she was like boss Secret Service.
Yeah.
Like, I would assume that the people that are like
I didn't
on the
either.
president are in charge of getting him to where he needs to go. But she immediately walks in and tells everyone what to do,
yeah.
including the people that are guarding the president. Like, get out of here. I got this guy. It's like, oh, just you want to take the president? Should I come with you? No.
I've got
Go
it.
to the mezzanine. It's all happened in the mezzanine. And then, yes, she starts driving an automatic car. which
Yeah,
we
a
discover
self-driving car.
is self-driving later. And she also yells a self-driving cab. How could you be so dumb? To Jim Sturgis.
Yep.
And then at one point, as she's escaping the Geostorm, we find out that there's a clearing up ahead. But what do we have to do before we get to the clearing? Got to take care of a little problem. At which point, the gunman, so we're dodging lightning and gunmen, who are behind her. She pops in the e-brake. There's a quick reverse while backing up at full speed. Pulls out her gun again, discharges all the rounds. Keep in mind,
And then some.
these Secret Service members that are shooting at her from the rear
Can't hit anything.
can't hit anything. She hits every single round in the windshield, takes them out, does a quick spin.
Also,
Pretty
not
sure she shot like
bulletproof
11
windshield.
shots. She didn't even shoot. She shot more than a full
However
clip.
many she
right.
shot, she hit all of them. And then does a sweet spin move, to which case, of course, what does the president say?
Marry her.
Nice. At which point, I believe Steve went horizontal in the theater, lying down.
There's lots of room.
Gripping. Yeah. Because the seating is so spacious?
Yes.
It was very spacious.
Yeah, I keeled over on that one. That was funny.
Just so many horrible one-liners.
Yeah.
And now I can't think of a single one because there were so many. The only one that I can remember is at the end of the movie now.
Yeah.
But so we get the codes, everything's on the up and up, but oh my god. Guys, who'd have thought the codes don't stop the self-destruct?
You don't.
Who'd have seen that coming?
It's just such a bad design flaw.
Everyone would have seen that coming.
Yeah.
So then we get the emotional, heartfelt moment of Jim Sturgis being upset about losing his brother, and his brother being like, "No, this is good.
This is good. I wanted this choice.
What's happening now? This is good."
This is fine.
So he flies off to save the day and input the codes after his 1 minute heartfelt. And I like that they gave them a minute. They're like, all this stuff, like all this text still working, but it's going to take you 60 seconds to download this file. So take your time, have your heartfelt moment.
With some great music.
With some great
was
fucking music. Do you want me to get you the soundtrack on vinyl when it
Yes.
comes out?
Yeah.
Perfect, I will. And so he does it, but not before, can't get into the building. Access code isn't working. Lo and behold, German scientist, whose German accent was also very on point, I believe, throughout the entirety of the movie. She did say Auf Wiedersehen once, and she sounded German at that point. But she knows the access code because, again, she lives there, and he, again,
Was just
a
using the
ding-dong.
wrong door.
The man throughout the entirety of this movie, the man that can like sense if like a screen door is ajar on the ship is like, this is the right. This
a lot of
is the
screen
right.
doors.
Yeah,
on the
so just
station.
get littered in screen doors. Whatever. Filtration
Let's
systems.
get the air in.
Whatever.
Doesn't
It's
know
just
which door is
constantly
which.
not knowing which room is which.
Yep.
At which point she has to constantly remind him, I may not know much about how to maintain the facility, but I do know where things are.
Because I live here.
Because I live here. So they make it. Everything explodes, to which point they are going to die.
So then they decide to crawl into a satellite.
Yeah.
Which has places for people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also manual controls of the thrusters.
Yes, because
That was
I just want to take 1 second to remind everybody that at any point did you guys think that these two were going to die?
oh.
And why not? Because to me, I believe you can't let one of your main heroes, unless it is like a horror movie with a really intense ending, you cannot let your heroes in a lighthearted movie die in space, because it's literally you just being in a spacesuit stuck until you either starve to death or run out of oxygen.
Yeah.
So it's like not a hero's ending. So it was either A, he was going to pull out a gun, which is also not a great ending for them to shoot themselves, or B, they were going to crawl into a satellite.
Also, their journey from where they were to the satellite, somehow they flung themselves
Just-
towards
oh,
it
yeah, just-
with stuff flying everywhere.
Yeah.
They didn't get hit by a single thing.
Well, as we saw earlier, everything that explodes on a space station is very delicate and just bounces right off.
Yeah.
Again, setting things up for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Good writing. But they do crawl in, and let's also touch on, Steve, what you said earlier. How are they going to alert people? How are they going to alert people as to what they're doing?
He's taking manual control of the thrusters
Right.
and sending out an SOS Morse code.
SOS. It's just
Whatever it is. What did they say? They said it was a Mayday.
No, Mayday.
And then they cut to him inside, and he's turning it frantically and said, "Man, I hope they see this."
And it is quite literally like just a twisty knob thing.
Yeah.
And also the fact that we've got
Great
these
one-liner.
scientists are just like everybody. NASA's back in, and they're like, "Oh, what's this on this? What camera is looking at this and is able to detect little like, oh, there's little pings?
Yeah.
Oh, there's little thruster pings, and it's an SOS symbol. Oh man,
Let's just get the shuttle over there.
yeah. Let's just. I wonder if the shuttle can turn around. It most certainly cannot.
That's not how shuttles work.
Not maybe in 2019, or I guess this was now 2024, 2022, something like that. So it's a heroic day, and everybody survives, and then that's it.
Yep.
Just about, right?
Yep.
He salvages his relationship with his daughter
Yeah.
and his brother.
Yeah.
Happy ending.
You know what I really did appreciate at the end of this movie, besides the terrible
credits?
voiceover of Hannah once again being like, "It's our planet, and if we all work together, we can do it." I did like that they were like, "Fuck it, we're still using like gas and stuff. Let's just fix Geostorm and keep using it." I love that it wasn't like no, we need to do the right thing and
Recycle.
Get rid of this.
Geostorm, we don't need to play God. We just need to be better, and let's all recycle. Yeah, it was like, no, let's still do Geostorm.
No, it works.
Let's just not be so shitty at it.
Yeah.
And a rocket ship blasts off into space, and we fade to black. But not before we get to the one-liner. That's the best one-liner in the movie, where the satellite docks with the shuttle.
Because apparently there's a spot ready for that.
Because there's a docking spot for the satellite that it all links up, and we see in the window one of the guys that was with them in the original team, and he says to him, you son of a bitch." And I think that he can hear him because he responds, "Thank the Mexican."
And he points to his
Mexican patch, just in case we didn't know.
that he was from
Like maybe there
Mexico.
was a different Mexican that we needed to thank, or it just felt a little out of place.
Yeah.
Happy day.
All right. So that was Geostorm.
So $120 million.
You can see where they spent the money. Didn't look horrible.
But it also didn't look like incredible.
Right.
Like there wasn't things where I was like, oh, wow.
I think the water coming into Dubai was bad.
Yeah,
The space station I thought looked pretty good.
it did.
Most of the
showed
space
it.
station stuff looked pretty
Yeah.
good.
But there hasn't been many space station things where I was like, oh, this looks kind of shitty. Because you get to like,
It's expensive.
things are either moving so slowly or so quickly that it's not hard to like
Yeah.
do that.
So since this is a movie train movie, we got to talk about trailers real quick. All of the trailers we saw at this movie, we've already seen. So I don't think we should really go into detail. We saw the trailer for The Commuter again with Liam Neeson.
Yep, that gets exponentially worse every time I see that trailer.
We saw the trailer for Daddy's Home 2. It was a bit of a different one than we saw last time.
A little bit.
This one with John Cena.
No, John Cena was in the last one, too.
he wasn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Mel Gibson looks as big as John Cena.
Yeah.
Chopping wood. You see his arms?
Yeah. He's in the snow chopping wood.
He's a manly man.
Yeah.
And then we saw the trailer for Justice League.
We can't see Justice League. So,
We
Garrett,
can't see it.
I'm going to let you go ahead and pick this one.
We're going to see Daddy's Home 2.
Good job. We did it. I didn't want to have to overrule you.
I vote for The Commuter.
Well, your vote is invalid because you're just a guest on this train.
This is true.
One off anyway.
Real quick, one thing I did like was that there were different satellites that did different things.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I was like, oh, it's cool that there's like a laser satellite. Which was just a laser.
The one that drops little bombs into the hurricanes.
I liked that. I thought that was cool. I thought we were going to see more of like how it fixed
yeah.
storms, but instead it was just like, nope, done.
Yeah. Big old laser.
Yeah, the laser was just like a death laser. Yep. I don't know how that would be applicable in other situations. Because you still have to, like, even if there's a blizzard, like, you still have to just shoot a laser at something. So, yeah, so...
Maybe it's just not as intense of a laser.
Maybe. Probably not. I thought it was pretty good. So what do we give it? How many
Geostorms?
How many Geostorms? How close to Geostorm would we give this? 1 minute to Geostorm being the best?
I'll give it a light drizzle.
A light, a light drizzle out of Geostorm. Garrett,
I'm gonna give this 5 minutes to Geostorm. This movie was awful, Sam.
it
It was garbage. You know it.
it made me really sad that I don't know what I was expecting, but it didn't meet my expectations. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
I was expecting it to be bad, but I wasn't expecting it to be so bad that I couldn't salvage anything.
True.
And I couldn't salvage anything out of this.
All right.
So, see Geostorm.
Don't see Geostorm.
Steve?
Don't.
Damn
Don't see it.
It's delicious. It's too delicious. Get out of here.
Piquing your interest. Bow.
Alrighty, it's the end of the show, so it's time that we talk about what's piquing our interest. Steve, you get to go first since you're the guest.
No, he doesn't.
No.
Garrett, what's piquing your interest?
What's piquing my interest is a film I just heard about today. It's called 7852, and it's a documentary about it breaks down the shower scene from Psycho. Just about how that was like a
I saw that.
a more like revolutionary kind of scene in terms of like cinematography and everything.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of actors talking about it and like kind of breaking it down a little bit.
Cool.
But it seemed like a really cool thing. I was like, wow, that's I think it's playing at the Music Box sometime this month.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
That's where we live.
So but that's what's piquing my interest.
Cool.
Steve, what about you?
Continuing the theme with space and rockets and space station and stuff. It was a few weeks ago, but Elon Musk had a keynote at some space convention talking about updating their plan to make humans interplanetary species and their plan to go to Mars. It was really
That's
interesting.
a great statement. These are my plans.
yeah.
The interplanetary.
It was really cool. So that they want to go and land on Mars in 2022, which is super ambitious. Land
Damn.
and build.
That to land people?
No, that would be
Just
2024. So the
Right.
rendezvous for Mars comes about every 2 years. So if they don't do it in 2022,
Then they
they push it back 2 years. But if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check out his keynote. He's not a great public speaker, but you can tell he's a brilliant man,
Yeah.
and he doesn't give a shit.
How long till we get a movie about him?
I get another year or two.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a soon in the
Jobs
making.
type
I
thing.
hate to say it, but I feel like he needs a really he's done a lot of great stuff, but I feel like he needs a big success,
Yeah.
something needs to work out really, really
Yeah.
well.
Tesla's starting to, but I think their launches for SpaceX have gone really well lately, and
Yeah.
they've been landing stuff. And
But I mean, you don't see a movie when like the big moment is like a shuttle or like a rocket lands back at Earth. And you're like, yes,
yeah,
it's
I
really
guess I have to
cool.
yeah.
But it doesn't merit like
True.
Yeah, and watching Geostorm, seeing NASA everywhere, so you just hear less and less about NASA because
it's definitely going to be
Blue Origin's
privatized.
Amazon's private space program. Blue Origin, or I guess it's Jeff Bezos, just tested their new engine and it's going well.
That's actually exactly what I was thinking in the scene where they pull up to NASA in Cape Canaveral and there's like 15 shuttles lined up. I was like, NASA's not doing that.
But if you watch this keynote, they have all these renderings of all like how
Right,
this stuff's
what
going
they
to work,
wanna
and
do.
SpaceX
not
looked
NASA.
it looked a lot like that. It was
Yeah.
really so yeah, check that out if you like space.
Yeah, dude. Sam, what about you?
Mine, as we're getting closer, nothing cutting edge, but I'm happy to see it. Zack Snyder has started sharing images of Justice League again. So hopefully that's, and they also named that he would be the sole directing credit for it. So hopefully he has ended if things are coming to an end, which it appears that they are. Hopefully he's ending things on a good note. And keep in mind he left the program because his daughter committed suicide. So hopefully he's still doing well, and hopefully they're able to mend things, because as much as maybe they didn't get along with his vision, I still I appreciated what he was able to do, and I still think he's talented. So
Yeah.
glad to see that things are potentially mended.
All right. Well, that does it for us.
See Geostorm.
See you, Geostorm. We'll see you next week. Go check out Good, Bad, or Bad Bad, Movie Versus, Beyond the Blast Doors. This film is lit. I think that's everything. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Three Wise Radio is a production of Three Wise Media. For more information, check us out on Facebook.